the earliest that we know of our family being in England was in Scotland in probably the early 1870s. And they lived in Garnet Hill, a big Jewish area in Glasgow city centre. And they had some children while they were up in Scotland. So they had Celia Fienburgh, which is related to your wife.
Yeah.
And Maurice Fienburgh, which is my grandmother's grandfather. And Fanny Fienburgh, my great-grandmother's aunty.
Okay.
And then they had one more son, Harry, who was born in Bradford.
Maurice knew these, Harry and Uncle Harry.
And Harry was born 1889 in Bradford. So there's the residency for the entire family on the 1891 census for Bradford. But there's no census for Scotland for anything before. But by 1889, they were in Bradford.
Oh, right.
Because Harry was born down here.
Right.
His brother Maurice, my great-great-great-grandfather, was born Glasgow 1884. And there's birth records for them as living at Garnet Hill, which is I think it's Garnet Hill, which was the large Jewish concentrated area at that time. There's a huge synagogue in there.
Yeah. Have you been there?
I've not been.
Okay.
Celia, on your side, on your wife's side, was born 1879.
Yeah.
What I did find out at some point was their children, the children, Harry, Fanny, Maurice, and Celia, were either born in Scotland or in Bradford. And the parents, William Fienburgh and Rose Colin. And Rose had previously been married, but not in the UK. So she was married wherever she came from. It said somewhere on a census that she came from Germany, but whether she was born in Germany or just transferred from Germany. There were tailors.
Right.
So there was obviously Bradford being the mill, a mill industry and a cotton industry and a wool and textile industry. Bradford was the perfect place to be for them.
My auntie Fanny Fienburgh,
Right.
she had a shop on John Street. Tailor, bespoke tailors. She lived above the shop. And she has made suits for quite famous people as well, so
Anyone you
I
can
can't remember them now.
I can't remember.
It's Bruce Forsyth.
Oh, Bruce Forsyth, yeah.
And
He was a
presenters
comedian
from
as
the
well.
BBCs. And
She's very small, she was very little.
Right.
She never looked old.
she was born 1887 in Glasgow. And when she first lived, when they first came to Bradford, they lived on Barry Street, I think. And they had two houses next to each other. So one was probably a shop, and one was the working area, and one was the house. And then they moved to John Street, which was the open air market. So there was a row of houses with little passageways in between to an open air market. And they lived, as Grandma said, above the shop, and then they had the shop downstairs. But they must have done well, because they employed machinists and tailors and sewers. So I think at one point they had, on one of the censuses, they've got three young men from Eastern Europe, all probably Jewish, Goldsteins and very, very Jewish sounding surnames. And they were all from places like Latvia, Poland, Lithuania. And so they obviously could afford to employ staff and have them living there as boarders. And then I think as they got older, they obviously they went on and married. I don't know what they did as they got older. I know Harry married and decided he didn't want to really follow the Jewish faith as much as what
Harry
he probably had done.
He had a horse and cart. And he used that for his business, and I can't think if it didn't go.
But he didn't want to continue being as Jewish as maybe the restrictions were too much, and he wanted a bit more freedom. And then he married a Jewish woman called Burgess, Nora Burgess. And then, from what I can gather, from what I've been told, Harry and Fanny, brother and sister, they fell out. They had a bit of a family feud between them because Fanny was very, very religious and Harry wasn't.
I think Orthodox. Just a memory, I really, because we didn't follow it. Presumably it'd be around here, and aunty didn't go far. Didn't go far. She used to take me to the bank, made us save as money. But she never went. I used to go Saturday afternoon, so she probably came Saturday morning.
I don't know which synagogue they went to. The synagogue membership books are so vast.
Yeah, it's where they are.
But
When we buried her as well, they must have known, because it's a different burial, isn't it?
and
Orthodox. And
From research on the cemeteries, there's Fienburghs and Nathans in the Sculmore Cemetery.
yeah, there
yeah,
is.
that's where my auntie is. 'Cause
They're all in there, apart from Harry.
And if it's at the bottom, it's the Orthodox. If it's at the top, by the Orwell, the building,
Yeah,
then it's the Reform.
ours are all opposite the school,
Right, it's at the bottom.
on the bottom side of the graveyard.
That's the Orthodox.
That's the Orthodox side. So there will have been. So they probably didn't come here. Right. Yes. So they had a fallout because Harry wanted to be a little bit more free, maybe. I don't know. But he didn't want to continue as much. But he did, from what I gather, he did marry a Jewish woman,
Yeah.
Nora Burgess, and then
Is that Nora that was a magistrate?
no, and then they had a son called Wilfred Fienburgh. So Wilfred was he was a member of Parliament for the Labour Party, and he joined the Labour Party Research Department in 1947. He was born in Ilford, in Essex, and then in 1951 he was voted in for Member of Parliament for Islington North, and he worked on radio production and television production for the ITV. I don't think it was the ITV in them days though.
No.
He used to write for the Daily Mail, I think. There is archives on the internet from court sessions from Parliament sessions that were held after his death, because he died at the wheel of his car in 1958. Yeah, his Rolls Royce had crashed into a lamppost in Mills Hill in London. So Parliament then decided that because one of their own had been killed in a car, they made it compulsory for seatbelts to be installed.
Right,
So they changed the law that the seatbelts had to be installed, but
because of
they never said they had to be worn. It affected them directly, yeah. And because he was only young and he was already a member of Parliament, he'd been a member of Parliament since he was 30.
Yeah.
I think it did shake them up a little bit with that. So they said, manufacturers now you need to put, I think it was only in the front seats. I don't think the back seats. I think that came in a bit later on.
A few years ago.
But it was never compulsory to wear it.
But to have it.
But the choice was yours from then on. You had the option. And he was awarded an MBE for his role in the Second World War. But I'm not really sure what his role was during that. And he wrote some books. He wrote a book called No Love for Johnny, which was
film?
Yeah, it was adapted into a film. It says it's a cynical portrayal of British politics in the late 50s. So I think it was probably just his experiences.
It was on TV a few years ago. It was a film. It was on TV a few years ago. Well,
Made
a lot
into
of
a
years
film
ago.
and a stage show, a stage production. And he wrote for The Observer. He was buried at Golders Green in London.
Big Jewish area.
Yeah. He was at Golders Green crematorium. And then there was a Times report saying that he'd left his wife, it was called Joan. He'd left his wife £6,177. And then in 1951 she was invited down to the library in Islington North, and they decided that when they were opening the new wing of the library, or there's a new room, or there was some new addition to the library, they decided that they would do it in his honour.
Yeah.
So they invited her down to open it up as a mark of respect to him. So that's quite... And he's got a couple of little roads named after him and a few little apartment buildings in London, Tufnell Park and Carlton Road. Morris was my great-great-great-grandfather. My great-great-grandfather, sorry.
My granddad.
Your granddad. He was in the First World War.
Yeah.
And he was part of the Highland Sea.
Black Watch or something.
Yeah, Black Watch.
It's very sad because he wrote a day-by-day diary.
Yeah.
And I think my cousin's got it, and we've been trying to... My brother's read it, and it was heartbreaking because it was in the trenches when they were dying. And in fact, it would be good in a museum.
Yeah.
My brother was trying to do it for that, because my brother's got his medals,
Yeah.
which is leaving you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Your medals.
So
Yes.
the medals are with one side of the family,
Yeah.
and the diary from the trenches is with the other side of the family. So it's a shame that they've been
Split up.
split up.
And my brother's seen it, he has borrowed it, and he gave it back. But my auntie's died since then. So I should imagine. And we've all been out of touch. We've just got back in touch this last few months. And I'm hoping, well, my brother will be asking about... He'd like to reunite the diary and the medals together.
Yeah.
It would be nice. It would be nice for...
Stories.
It would be nice for the diary to be made, to be typed up, maybe.
To have a day-to-day record of people dying, losing limbs, the heartbreak, the tears, the letters. And in Bradford, a number of years ago, there was an article my brother said in the paper, wanting people to get in touch with them to do this article, and he just couldn't get it for them, you know. He lived next door to me, didn't he? Mum and Dad lived next door. I don't remember them though. They died. I think I'd been a baby when they died.
Where was that?
Arcady Street. They lived next door to Mum and Dad. In Arcady Street, Manningham. Well, I used to go to my auntie's shop a lot, and I went to school in Manningham. I used to go dancing. And then we moved to White. And then it altered, did all the only time I came to Bradford was to see Auntie Fanny. Well, probably Mum came shopping in Bradford, so she probably plunked me at my auntie's. And I used to love going to see my auntie. I was fascinated with a little workshop and a poky little place she lived. She had some beautiful things. Everything was not used. The shop was downstairs. You go up the stairs, and the workshop was on the left, because it was quite long, I suppose. The workshop was on the left. All the tables and the big wrought irons. And then I went on the right, and that was above the shop was where she lived. You know, only thing I can remember now is, I mean, she had a lot of lovely memories, but we weren't interested. Well, you wasn't. No. It's only with the computer age, where Richard, I'm proud of how he's done with... I wish you didn't ask questions. You didn't ask, where's Grandad, or what Grandad did, or we just knew they were always there for us, you know. Well, not so much for me, because they died when I was a baby, but I'm sorry, we didn't ask questions. Opposite Auntie's shop, and I think it's still there, there used to be a tobacconist. I think they were Jewish.
Yeah.
And they did all fancy, just tobacco. Auntie she used to send me over there and get change and things like that from them. And I think in them days she'll have stuck to their own people. She didn't seem to have a lot of friends, you know. She was always a workaholic. She was a workaholic.
I don't think Auntie Fanny would have moved out of her immediate area.
Right.
I don't think she'll have gone anywhere.
She didn't want to move.
I don't mean move like house. I just mean like in general, day to day.
No, she didn't.
I think she'll have been at work. She'll have probably come to synagogue if she went to synagogue.
Yeah.
She'll have.
So she used to take us to the bank. Her main thing was
Yeah,
she
she'll
wanted
have gone
us
to
to
the bank.
save money.
Yeah.
The Yorkshire Penny Bank
Top of town. Yeah.
at the top of town, which is just off the parade, which is just round the corner from the shop.
I had her bank book, didn't I? I had her tailor's bank book.
Yeah.
Because I did go to the Yorkshire Penny Bank, the old one. And that bank book I had was only her balances for what she got paid. And I destroyed it a few years ago. And well, you don't.
No, you see it as things you...
You see, as I'm getting older, you get rid of
I
things.
was less than impressed.
Yeah, but you don't leave such a mess about, you know. And I thought, well, I've had the memories all these years, and you know. And I remember once when I got engaged at 17, she offered me. She had like diamonds. She wasn't well off herself. She didn't dress well off. She always had a blouse and a skirt. That was Auntie Fanny. Everything was grey. Probably a working thing. She never had anything different on. She always clean. She'd had different clothes and go. But her living area was untidy. Not because the carpets were rolled up. She had antiques that were shoved in corners. She had this beautiful oak cabinet with all these old pictures on. And because they were pulling John Street down, she wouldn't move. She was the last person in John Street.
Yeah.
They were actually taking the roofs off round her. She went in the paper, so it will be catalogued in the Telegraph. And that was a couple of years before she died, so when she died in 1977, whenever the market...
I think it was about 71.
I didn't think she lived that long. I think she only lived a couple of years. Because it was a broken heart. My mum took her to hospital, and then she'd nowhere else to go, and the council found her a place. And they said to me, Mum, what do you want to do with all the things? Well, you have them, you look after, you know. My mum wanted for possessions, but she knew that Aunt had a lot of stuff. She went to this place, little one-bedroom apartment, and Auntie Fanny went from then. She went to see now. So it broke her heart. Then she went into a home. So that's when we lost everything. And then when she died, they rang me, and I had to find a way. She died on a Friday, and I knew she had to be buried. So I knew these things, but I've never asked. I knew she had to be done by Monday.
Yeah.
It wasn't very easy trying to sort that out for us. But we did it right. That's the main thing.
I think when my great-grandmother died, I think I was at that. I spent a lot of time with my great-grandmother, and we were together almost every day. And she used to tell me tiny little things, but never anything that I can piece together enough to make a bigger story out of.
Sorry.
And I used to get small little snippets of information. Well, I used to do this, blah, blah, blah. You know, just very little tiny bits.
Random. So.
Yeah, but I didn't, you don't think of people passing away. So I never thought of asking more questions, and I think I was at an age where I was quite impressionable by the fact that I knew that I'd never get these stories back. So then I started doing this. That's how I got into...
How long ago was it?
I was 14 when she passed away. Because I couldn't ask anybody else. Like Grandma said, they didn't ask questions.
Yeah.
No, but I couldn't talk about my mum, could I? That's why I
She
blocked off.
she gets upset when you talk about people. And my dad didn't ask questions. And my great-grandmother's sister, Doreen, we never had that kind of, we were never brought up together, so there were never an opportunity to ask her questions.
Yeah.
And she passed away, so everyone's gone.
There's no one to ask.
There's this diary, I would have fucking... She never married, as I said. I found out afterwards he died in the war, so she never... And Auntie Roseanne, Nathan, they used to come to Bradford, not so much to see him, or I would go and stay with them in Leeds.
I think if Auntie Fanny is, I don't know what you would call him. He obviously wanted a husband, worry. But
she never had...
a gentleman friend, yeah.
Never...
If he'd not died in the war, it could have been a totally different thing altogether. The business could have gone a lot earlier, because everyone else seemed to... I don't know what my great-great-grandfather did. I don't know if he stayed in the business. I don't know if he helped out. I don't know if it was just left to Auntie Fanny because she never married. I think it could have been different. The tailoring might not have been there.
Well, there was still a shop up to the day she went... Well, they'd have emptied it. So materials, but she was still living there the day she went into hospital. Well, she lived in this place not long, because we used to go visit her, and it only seemed to be for a year, if that. And I think she was only in the home for a year, if that. I used to go visit her there. She had nobody else, you see. So I used to go. But she was senile, so I couldn't ask her anything. But then they gave me that book. She had said that were a prized possession, and that's all she had. It was my Auntie Fanny's. It's the only thing she took into her home, and obviously when she died they gave me it because I was the only one there. And I've had it ever since Richard's been interested. We've been trying to... I remember Roseanne saying it was all family.
I think it's hard, if you've not been brought up as Jewish, it's hard to change into having a Jewish life. I've not been brought up Jewish, but I follow a lot of the Jewish customs. But it's hard to make that adjustment because we've not been brought up that way.